On August 4th, 1972, a severe solar event would engulf the planet Earth. The aurora borealis was visible from as far south as Erie, Pennsylvania. U.S. naval mines off the coast of North Vietnam spontaneously detonated, and somewhere in a lab in the American Midwest, a man named Ivan Beck opened a window. The human central nervous system must stay continuously engaged with goal-driven activity in order to sustain stable cognitive and affective functioning. This is a biological constraint, supported by what we currently understand about dopaminergic reward circuitry, which is structured not around the attainment of goals, but around the pursuit of them. When this drive is denied expression, and an organism capable of intricate problem solving is placed in an environment that offers neither problems to solve nor agency over its own circumstances, the system will generate its own objects of attention. Like an iris in the dark, expanding to let in more light, the mind expands its search for acceptable information, lowers its standards, and finds patterns in noise, stories in random occurrence, and meaning in the incidental features of whatever environment it has been confined to. When structured input is removed, the brain will hallucinate structure. Plummeting into the absence of purposeful activity, the brain will contrive purpose, desperately latching onto whatever substrate is available to a vivid degree that feels indistinguishable from genuine discovery. These conditions, and the so-called surrogate activities they inevitably produce, have become psychotic ambient features of industrialized life. Features generated not by deliberate prescription, but by the accumulated logic of economic and technological systems that solve for efficiency, comfort, and risk reduction, while inadvertently stripping from daily life the very thing the nervous system cannot do without. We are, as a species, parsing wallpaper at extraordinary scale. Kane Parsons, writer and director of Backrooms. What I just read to you was a foreword, written by Kane Parsons and included with an exclusive A24 copy of Charlotte Perkins Gilman's semi-autobiographical short story, The Yellow Wallpaper. Kane referenced this story once before. Its ISBN identifier is used as a title for a short, unlisted video depicting CCTV footage of a car falling into the complex. The story, published by Gilman in January of 1892, 130 years before Kane Parsons' first Backrooms found footage video, tells a tale through a series of secret journal entries of a woman prescribed to isolation in an enclosed room by her physician husband. She is locked in this room, an empty nursery, in an attempt to cure her postpartum depression. Over time, she develops a raving obsession with the monotonous yellow wallpaper adorning the walls of her prison. Deprived of all other external stimuli, she begins to hallucinate new patterns in the noisy wallpaper. A figure of a woman on all fours, trapped in the sickly maze of yellow. By the end of the story, her imprisonment by the hands of her husband has driven her completely mad. She's torn down the wallpaper, and herself begins to rub on the walls, scurrying around on all fours, climbing over her husband's fainted body. She stared so long at the wallpaper, she saw herself reflected in it. And when she freed herself of her prison, she was forever changed. Change is inevitable. Change can be promised, it can be good, it can be bad. Sometimes we do everything in our power not to change, to stay who we are, where we are. We get stuck in our loops. Clark was a man who stared at wallpaper. stuck in what should be a temporary job before a fruitful career in architecture, which was surely coming. He's just stuck for now, selling ship furniture because his wife won't help him, or the world won't help him, or because his brain is just wired that way. Of course. Clark was always between places. This is something that I'm sure many people may be able to relate to. I do. A feeling of potential within you, a greater purpose, change that is always around the corner, but we feel stuck where we are. We aren't ready, not yet. There's always a reason, always an excuse why we can't do the work that we need to do. There is an allure to staying the same, to stagnate, and in doing so, we make stagnation our domain. We become rulers of nothing. Clark stared at the wall so long that it opened up and swallowed him whole. But it didn't swallow him immediately. Rather, it opened itself up to him. His store continued. The complex is a vast landscape, a corner to peek around, just to see what's there. It isn't alive, it doesn't care. According to an interview with Kane, hosted by Deadmeat, it seemingly doesn't even use memories.
It's not human-centric. It's not picking these icons that it knows are important to the human race, and it's not reading people's minds and deciding this is the most, special little spot from your own life to look at. It's more like people are projecting their own importance onto what kind of feel like almost randomly selected elements from outside.
It's not human-centric. It doesn't care. It's a sea of wallpaper, noise, patterns formed from projections. Clark projects his humanity onto the complex. He thinks he understands it. He thinks he rules it. The pirate is him, an extension of himself, he thinks. If the pirate is king of these lands, so is he, but much to his dismay, he changes. To even accept that one doesn't wish to change, that is a change in of itself. The pirate devours him. A backwards inversion of Goya's famous painting, one that Kane featured in a track thumbnail just before the film's release. The man is consumed by what was created from him, to fear change, only to change anyway. I believe this is a glimpse into the future of the story yet to be told. I believe Clark is just one instance of a recurring phenomenon throughout the series, this obsession. Marvin just had to see what was making that noise. Peter Tench was so sure there was another way out, that the complex would save him. Ronald McCarthy was so sure there was something worth seeing on the other side of that wall. Clark sacrificed his employees to a pit of death for more knowledge, and Phil just wants to know a little bit more. They all project themselves onto this bleak landscape of noise until they begin to hallucinate a false sense of understanding, trying to understand what cannot be understood. Allowing oneself to be lured by what lurks around the corner, an insatiable desire for more. Ivan Beck was forever changed after the events of Overflow. Seemingly diagnosed with post-traumatic retrograde amnesia, as indicated by this artwork and a music track, Ivan lost his memories. Right? Well, what was he doing? What caused the Overflow event? As indicated by the paperwork on the board, Beck was already a scientist, studying something. Whatever the solar event did, it only amplified or triggered something that was already there. In I Remember, Ivan tells us that his home was taken by the sea. Common speculation points to this being double entendre, one meaning in the past, one in the future. But for now, let's focus on the past. Fans have long speculated that Ivan, as a very young child, no more than a few years old, was with his parents as Czechoslovakian refugees, fleeing the Nazi regime. They found a new home somewhere in America, probably western Pennsylvania, where they would stay for only a few short years, before the Ohio River flood of 1937 would cause catastrophic damage to surrounding areas across multiple states. The Beck's family home would be taken by the sea, marking the second time Ivan would be displaced from his home. As Ivan grew up, this memory would stay with him. The feeling of not having a home, a place in this world. Ivan Beck was acutely aware of the dangers that faced modern society. The world around him was ever changing.
Throughout this past century, we have seen the advent of countless innovations that have completely reshaped life as we know it. But with all of this growth comes a number of undesirable byproducts. Byproducts that, if left unchecked, have the potential to irreversibly scar our modern world. As human expansion is projected to increase exponentially in the coming decades, we must account for these never-before-faced challenges in ways equally never-before considered. Here at Async, we believe we have found the solution: the low-proximity magnetic distortion system.
To change, to disrupt, to understand. These are the goals of modern async. Phil says as much to Mary in the film. He just wants to know a little bit more. What's around that corner? Async's founder, Lawrence Altman, is implied to have been named after a combination of Ernest O. Lawrence, inventor of the cyclotron and namesake for the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, and Sam Altman, CEO of OpenAI. Kane himself is worried that this might be a bit on the nose, but let's let it slide. I won't exhaust you with yet another explanation of all the connections between AI and how the complex works. Those connections are there, at least on a thematic level. The complex is a blender, the ultimate slopifier. It homogenizes, it steals ideas from standard, it turns you to mush. But more importantly, Sam Altman is a terrible person. That can be said about most of these Silicon Valley tech oligarchs, and Lawrence Altman, well, he's one of them. Editor's note, I want to mention that at the time of Kane naming the character Lawrence, Sam Altman was not as much of a household name. The widespread hatred for this man had not started yet, and recent events highlighting his more atrocious behavior had not yet occurred. That's not to say that the choice to name the character that wasn't a point of criticism. I believe it was. It's just more so a commentary of Sam's brand of zealous worship of technological advancement, an attitude of ignorance which seems so universal among these Silicon Valley tech giants. Anything about Sam's more vile personal life is wholly unrelated. New technology is constantly at the forefront of cultural and societal change. The steam engine, the atomic bomb, the computer, the internet, AI, all of it was just around the corner once. All of it was once a new, disruptive technology. But where are we? Where are the people? We're still left behind. We're still suffering. Where Clark feared change, only to change anyway, society is chasing change, only to not change at all. We look for the next thing before we stop to assess the damage of the last thing. Mark Fisher's Hauntology describes the idea that humanity is still stuck living in the unrealized utopic promises of the 1990s. We consume nostalgia and past experiences at an ever-increasing rate, instead of marching forward and making our own shared lived experiences. The death of the third space, decrepit malls, liminal spaces, we're still stuck unchanging. Lost men in suits and ties and even lab coats endlessly pursue a change that's always around the corner, unreachable. We parse wallpaper at extraordinary scale. Ivan Beck is different. He isn't pursuing the KV-31 project out of a sense of changing the world for the sake of disruption or money or thrill. This is personal to him. He has a genuine care for the world. Sure, the DOE presentation was deceptively optimistic for the sake of gaining funding and securing vertical expansion contracts, but the glaciers, they are melting, you know. Rising sea levels, pollution, war, homelessness, the world around us is ever changing, and Ivan Beck wants us to be able to live in a world where we don't have to. A place made for us, a place where we can be safe from ourselves. But of course, that's not what the complex is. Ivan had an idea. With his machine, he would exploit a loophole in quantum mechanics that he discovered. He was enlightened, and he would use that knowledge to bring us fire like Prometheus. I'm sure that's how he saw himself, at least. I doubt he would have predicted the eagle which would pick his liver on the mountain. Maybe a more fitting Greek analog would be Icarus, son of Daedalus who built the labyrinth. Icarus flew too close to the sun and was cast down to the seabed with all the other forgotten things. When Ivan opened the window, he stepped through. Not him, our Ivan per se, but him, his reflection, as Pirate Clark is Clark, as Charlotte Perkins Gilman's narrator stepped through or out of the torn wallpaper and was freed. The green light that is the trail of a comet, a signature of the unseen driving force behind the complex and its expansion, its construction, its force of replication, it opened itself to Ivan Beck, and another Ivan Beck stepped through. This window was a mirror, and Ivan's reflection would stand in the ashes of his source material. Kane sent a message once in the community server and promptly deleted it. Ivan Beck is a false identity. This, combined with another message stating that the track Post-Traumatic Amnesia represents birth, begins to paint a picture. The green light appears to be some kind of plasma, ionized atmosphere as a result of the raw energy being dumped into the creation of material. You can't survive that. Madison's found footage number 2 is watched on a TV screen in a room without a power outlet. Blue screen that reads no signal, which we see again translated to Mandarin in Everything Must Go. This is not the original tape. This is a copy. A very, very well replicated copy, as a result of being directly exposed to the metaphorical architect force of the complex. If Ivan encountered this force, I doubt he would have survived. But a facsimile copy, nearly flawless in quality, could take his place, his identity. But there would be some changes, namely neuronal chirality, the symmetry of the mind. A mirrored neuronal pathway wouldn't quite act the exact same as its unmirrored counterpart. Pieces of still Ivan's mind would be jumbled. Memories would be gone. This man is not Ivan Beck. He has his face, albeit deformed in one eye, perhaps even misremembered. Maybe he can see more than just visible light. Maybe he has access to shrimp colors, who knows? He has his face, he has his body, he has his brain, but the memories, most of them anyway, are gone. A psychiatrist unfamiliar with Ivan would easily diagnose a man like this with retrograde amnesia. Maybe if he were to get onto one of his buddy Lawrence's MRI machines, he would find his organs are all on the wrong side, and get himself a nice situs inversus totalis diagnosis as well. In either case, the man we call Ivan Beck is a changed man, a different man from the one born in Karlovy Vary 1931 to Doris and Antonin Beck. He's a still life, a well-replicated still life. So what does he want? Well, he knows some things. He can learn about the past of Ivan Beck. He surely shares many behavioral and personality traits. Maybe he even got to keep some of his memories of his education, but there will always be something missing. His home. Is it in Karlovy Vary? Is it in the Midwest? Is it somewhere else? I don't think Ivan knows what he is, at least not consciously. He is subject to confirmation bias. He vainly believes that the complex took his memories, used them as a canvas or a seed to grow further. He sees things like clocks with his birthday, European wallpaper, paintings by a man he once knew named George Brem, and he thinks this place was made for him, just like Clark did. He cherry-picks the evidence. He fits the findings to match a result that he is looking for, that he is special. Kane shows us these same pieces of evidence. We see these clocks that have Ivan's birthday, and we instinctually assume that Ivan is a special guy. We are led into this red herring. We believe the same delusions that Ivan holds. Kane wants us to think like Ivan does. He thinks he can find his memories, but he's in denial. On some subconscious level, he knows what he's doing. He knows he's being delusional. He writes to himself, "Forever, you won't find yourself there. because you don't really exist. Ivan won't find himself there in the complex because that version of himself he's looking for doesn't exist. Once he inevitably does find out what he is, his delusions will only be reinforced in his mind. Not only will he think the complex is a piece of him grown beyond proportion, he'll think the complex is a parent to him. He'll think he was so special, the complex gave birth to him, that he is the product of some incomprehensible form of love. He doesn't remember his parents. Doris, the name of his mother, comes from an ancient nymph of the sea, loving mother to children. Antonin, the name of his father, means invaluable, priceless, unreachable. I think, as a child, Doris was the one caring for Ivan, whilst his father Antonin was a successful and maybe wealthy man, cold, disapproving, absent, unreachable. It explains how the Beck family had the resources to successfully flee the country and settle into a home in America so quickly, but it also spells out a lonely childhood for Ivan Beck. If Ivan Beck learns what he is, my greatest fear is that he will enter the complex, the thing that gave him life, in search of the love of a mother, only to instead meet the bleak, uncaring, absent love of his father, and it will consume him. Thank you all for watching. I made this video for existing fans of the series, expecting whoever is watching to be partially familiar with some of the existing theories that are out there. This is the first Backrooms related video that I've put onto my own channel, first theory video as well. I did do a collaboration with Red, with a theory about furniture crabs and their anatomy. If you want to know more about Backrooms and this video made no sense to you, please check out her channel. It'll catch you up to speed on pretty much everything. If you want to see more Backrooms related content from me, stay tuned. I do have other things planned, but I want to know. I want to know if you guys like this kind of thing. So please like, comment, subscribe, share, all the other YouTuber stuff. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them. Have a great day.